Excuse me, sir. Did you know that Nightly Routine is now on Steam, and you can and should go wishlist it immediately? You see, Steam's algorithm relies heavily on the amount of wishlists when it comes to how they promote it. And don't you want to be the first to know when the game releases? This could be your future. We also have a wide array of vacuum cleaners. But it's true. Nightly Routine now has a Steam page, and you can and should go wishlist. It would mean a lot, and it really helps with Steam noticing it and promoting it. Okay, let's not waste any more time and quickly explain how the enemies actually work for real. So during the day, you have a limited amount of time to explore the island, build castles, and trade with merchants. Once that timer reaches 0, the sun sets, and the Night Pandas emerge from their shadowy depths to attempt to kill you and sacrifice the king, blah 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 blah. Once you defeat them all, the sun rises again, and you can use the souls from the ones you killed to purchase upgrades for yourself and your castle. Anyway, here's the new stuff. Each night, the number of pandas and the health they have increases, forcing you to progress if you want to survive the coming nights. And the original design for the AI's line of thinking was to chase whichever character was closer, the player or the king. Then, if it has the king, head straight to Morthibus to go kill him. Unfortunately, the whole system felt a little stiff, and the AI didn't feel very intelligent. So the first course of action I did was to make a small percentage of Night Pandas always chase you no matter what, and another small percentage always chase the king no matter what, and the rest will follow that earlier logic of detecting who's closer, etc. And this added a lot of variety to their actions and really spread them out across the map more. But we had another problem. Since the navigation system in Unreal Engine is designed to have AI follow the shortest possible path, the Night Pandas would naturally shift into a line while they were chasing me or the king. So I added these nav mesh modifier volumes that the Night Pandas naturally gravitate towards when they're walking near them. I put them on all the major paths of the island, so it didn't look like they were trying to cut every corner every time they made a turn. And since I only have them attracted to them rather than forcing them to use this, it really splits them up in a more random and natural way. Speaking of where the Night Pandas can move, an even bigger problem has been staring me down my throat since day one. If you could shimmy your way up to any surface that was unreachable by the Night Pandas, they would just be stuck looking at you. So my first attempt to fix this was to have them detect if you are reachable at all, and if you are not, chase the king instead. But since I'm working on this project with blueprints, there really isn't any options of programming something like that that aren't super laggy. I know of a technique where you can do this in C++, so I actually even tried converting my project to C++ to add it in, but it was making the project seem really messy, and I got a lot of anxiety about just messing or corrupting the whole thing. So I scrapped the idea, so we're just back to blueprints, and now the Night Pandas throw rocks at you until you come down. Of course, this rock solution didn't work for the king though, as you could just throw the king up onto a rock, and the Night Pandas could never grab him and take him to Morthibus. So, we already know that the king needs his beauty sleep. But we decided he can only sleep soundly if he's in his chair or in the arms of a panda, whether it's you or a Night Panda. When he's on the ground, this meter will appear, which is a timer until he wakes up. Once he wakes, we figure he could do something like get so scared he falls off the island, or maybe he just blows up. Anyway, 2 problems solved, and the AI are working a lot better. But another fundamental part of this game is building castles for protection, and we need the Night Pandas to make sure they can get into those castles. Excuse me, sir. This wasn't technically an issue we were having, more of a feature that we just haven't added yet. Essentially, for the castle pieces, we no longer make them affect the navigation, which means in the Night Panda's mind, they can just walk straight through them. We did this so it wouldn't affect the pathfinding towards you or the king. When they approach the castle walls, obviously it stops them, but they're gonna just simply try to walk through it. When they do this, we fire a trace in front of them for the castle pieces, and when it finds the one that's in front of them, it switches their focus to attack that specific piece rather than you or the king. Which means we need to implement a health system into each building piece, but more importantly, visually express that health to the player. The obvious option would have a health bar on each injured piece, but that much UI sounds like it would get really cluttered and really annoying really quickly. So the next thing that came to mind was having the piece slowly turn red as it got more injured. But that didn't seem noticeable enough when it had minor damage, even after adding a normal map to try to show some deformation. It was looking more like it was turning into hot lava. So I scrapped the red and made a different normal map full of cracks with black streaks, fading them in at this percentage of how damaged it is. It looks good close up, but overall it still just wasn't quite enough. So I had the best idea I had all month, and it was to add a material offset as it got damaged to make the walls rotate and skew to look like they're crumbling down. And when this happens to your whole castle, it begins to look like ruins. And of course you can repair your castle with your hammer. Also, do you guys want to see something cool? Official Nightly Routine fan art. This was made by Denier, and I just had to show it off because a game that I'm making, having fan art, is the coolest thing in the world to me. So shout out to Denier. I love it very much. I wanted to put it in the devlog. And by the way, he sent this in the Discord, which you can join in the description if you want. Pixel art is always so impressive to me. I can never seem to make it look that good when I do it, and it takes me an outrageously large amount of time to make anything nice. Another thing that takes an outrageously large amount of time was making the main menu for my game. I think it looks pretty nice though. It'd be a lot cooler with its own custom music and not some royalty-free song I spent half an hour looking for online. And speaking of music, a lot of people have hit me up about hiring them to create a soundtrack for the game, and I really appreciate that, and I absolutely do want to have a custom soundtrack for the game, but I also can't really afford to hire anybody to do that at the moment. So I'll still just have to kind of figure out what the plan's going to be with that. I don't know yet. For sounds, I might just fork over some cash to some audio pack. I'm not sure, I've never worked with sound, but most of this main menu work was actually on the options menu. Wait, don't click off the video. I know that sounds boring. I'll make it super quick, and I have a lot more cool stuff to share. I made some cool animations for navigating pages, and I added customizable options for different PCs, and I added keyboard bindings because everybody appreciates that option. Although I did make the mistake of making custom images for nearly every single key on the keyboard, and that took freaking forever, but it works well and it looks great. I'm also adding controller support into the game, which also works great, except navigating menus, which I'm still deciding my approach towards, because that doesn't work at all. And lastly, from the boring stuff, I made you be able to save and load your game, which is a lot of manual work, because you essentially need to do every single aspect of the game that needs saving individually, like what day you're on, how much health you have, what's in your inventory, which was a tough one. It does do the super cool thing when you load in and it rebuilds your castle like this. Come on, that's awesome. Okay, so the last devlog, I asked what weapons I should make for the 5th weapon. I got a crazy amount of replies and a lot of good suggestions. In fact, many of the good ideas were commented many times by many people. Some people said a fire staff, which could definitely be cool and unique, but I want to stay away from magic-based weapons for a very specific reason that I'm not going to tell you why yet. Some people said spears or javelins, which I actually also considered a while ago and even made a model for, but I ended up deciding it wasn't that fun to use.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But the most intriguing comment to me was from Yggdrasil, who said that I don't have any movement-based weapons. I worked really hard to make the movement in this game feel good. I play a lot of Apex Legends, and the movement in that game is obviously very fluid and fun, and it makes me want to be able to move like that in every other game I play. In my game, you have a very fast sprint, you can slide down hills, and you can bunny hop pretty dang efficiently if you get the timing right. It's a lot of fun, but I did always feel like it could be one step better. So I started sketching out ideas for Grappling Hook, which was Yggdrasil's suggestion. The idea would be you could grapple the terrain for quick traveling, and if you grappled a Night Panda, he'd be pulled towards you, which you can combo with by hitting them with the hook. And lastly, I was also thinking you could grapple the king to pull him towards you, which could also be very beneficial to prevent him from being crushed by Morthibist or waking up from his beauty sleep. I started by adding a spline as a weapon that increased and decreased in length when you shot it out. If it collided with any terrain, it would apply force to the character in the direction of the point of impact. Except I wanted to give the player some more control, so I changed it to move towards the vector in between the impact point and where you're currently looking. I created the model in Blender real quick and decided to worry about the upgrades for it later. After changing the code to make the spline come out of the gun instead of the body, I updated the gun's rotation to follow the connected points, which gives us a very fluid, responsive look. The only part I was unsatisfied with was the animation of the rope. It was way too stiff, so I added a lot of complicated math to make it wiggle and release on return. A lot of math. I'm not great at math, and this was some advanced trigonometry stuff, so it took me many hours of testing and tweaking before I got something I was satisfied with. In case you were wondering, the winning formula was the spring interpolation of the impact point multiplied by the sine of the game seconds times pi times 8, all multiplied by 50, and the value of the effect curve by time. Anyway, the Brappling gun works great, so the best common award today goes to Yggdrasil. And also I have to mention, it's funny your name is Yggdrasil because for a long time we were actually going to have a massive tree in the map based off Yggdrasil, but eventually we had to drop it because it took too much room without really serving any purpose to the game. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the Grappling Hook, and thank you for watching, and wishlist the game on Steam, don't forget.